Welcome back to the Mafia Minute. I am Magnum Mills flying solo this week. Jamie G will be back next week. So unfortunately, it falls to me alone to review the results of the AFC Championship game. It's not going to be the funnest episode ever, but sometimes you just got to power through because the things are the way they are. Thank you very much for checking out the Mafia Minute presented by Seize the Gap Fantasy Football. You can find our content wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Find us on social media at Seize the Gap FF and on the web at mafiaminute.com. Nice and easy to remember, just like the flaps, FLAPS. Follow, like, and please subscribe. If you had fun, please make sure that you hit the thumb. And hopefully, this show can at least offer a little bit of fun in these trying times. I can only say, Bills fans, it could be worse. You could be Dallas Mavericks fans right about now. They might actually have it worse. Before we get into the game review, let's check in on the Bills on parade, see if we have any Buffalo Bills news and whatnot here. Not a ton. I guess you could note that the Bills did re-sign backup quarterback Shane Buechele to a reserves contract. I don't think it means too much, but he is close friends with Josh Allen, so maybe he sticks around. The other big piece of news is that safety Micah Hyde has officially retired from the NFL. He wasn't lying when he said he wouldn't ever play anywhere else. Didn't wind up getting back on the field after rejoining the Bills late in the season, but he is a great player, especially for the Bills. He will be beloved in the franchise forever and ever. Maybe he'll stick around and do a coaching thing, a mentor thing, something like that. And we'll have to see how that works out. That's probably about all the beating around the bush we can do. Let's get into the game review, starting with the injury report. The most notable thing here was very scary, very unfortunate. Christian Benford, who barely made it through the concussion protocol to play in the game, suffered another concussion. This was a friendly fire one. No one was targeting or anything, just a pure accident. Had to get carted off the field. Extremely scary. You would think that he should be fine by next season, but getting two concussions so close to each other is certainly a scary thing and an issue that must be looked at. Hopefully he is fine, but again, you never know with these kind of things, so just take it a day at a time. Hopefully, going forward, never has another one, but certainly something to be concerned about. And we had safety Taylor Rapp miss the game with the hamstring injury. Shouldn't be a big deal. I wouldn't think that this is going to be something that causes him to miss time in the offseason or anything like that. Just unfortunate timing for him to have to go out there in the championship game. Jamie G was not that far off on his final score prediction. He had Buffalo 28, Kansas City 25, wound up being Buffalo 29, Kansas City 32. Almost nailed the Bills score, nailed the margin of victory with the 3 points. Oh, so close, but unfortunately, no cigars for you here for a close prediction. We would have taken the win any way we could get it, so not much solace here in being close on the prediction. Next, we need to review the keys to victory. Jamie G had some keys to victory for the Bills in this game. They didn't get the victory, but did they accomplish the keys? Let's find out. Key number one was to control the controllables. We had to hold on to the ball, avoid interceptions, make our kicks, avoid mental mistakes, and try to minimize the chances for the refs to make an impact on the game. I think the refs definitely made an impact on the game, but we are still going to go with a pass here. The Bills they didn't turn the ball over. They forced a turnover on the other side. They played pretty clean with the penalties. I mean, 6 penalties for 48 yards. Not the best, but nothing that was backbreaking either. Kansas City was penalized at roughly an even rate, but you can make an argument about the calls that weren't made, but those are beyond our control. All we could do was control the controllables, which we did. Key number two, when the Chiefs make a mistake, we have to cash it in. This one is also a pass. Only had the one turnover, but after the Mahomes fumble, the Bills cashed it in for the touchdown, just like we needed to. Unfortunately, that was the only real mistake that they made, but when they made the mistake, we took advantage, we cashed it in. That is, by definition, a pass. Key number three was we had to break out the double D's. Dawson Knox and Dalton Kincaid are two-headed tight end attack, and this one unfortunately winds up being a big fail. The two combined for 20 yards on 3 receptions. I mean, they did catch 3 of their 4 targets, but I think the one everyone is going to remember is that final target that Dalton Kincaid didn't come down with. And that's the kind of game it was. If Kincaid comes down with that catch, regardless of the outcome, I think this probably becomes a pass. Instead, it remains a fail. Key number four, make Taylor sad. I guess she was probably happy with the ultimate outcome, but what we were really talking about was limiting the production of Travis Kelce, and in that respect, this is a big pass. Kelce only had 2 receptions for 19 yards on 4 targets, and he did not find the end zone. That's far better than we had even hoped for, especially after he was coming off the monster game the previous week against the Texans. This is by far the best job the Bills have done on defense against Kelce in the playoffs as long as these matchups have been going on. So Taylor was probably sad about that. Ultimately, she probably got the last laugh. But when it comes to limiting the production of Travis Kelce, we passed. Key number 5 was to rip the band-aid off the Chiefs' offensive line, take advantage of their weak situation, having to kick Joe Thuney out to left tackle. This was a close one. We're going to say we just failed. Oh, so close, but you needed to capitalize a little bit more. According to Pro Football Focus, the Bills had 5 QB hits and 7 QB hurries in addition to their 2 sacks. That's not bad, but it's not quite the game-changing effort that I think we needed there. And when they flushed him out, Mahomes still managed to make some plays with his legs, so that hurts the grade a little bit too. And in the end, I think you have to really look at the disappointing performances from Greg Rousseau and AJ Epinesa. They combined to rush the passer 53 times, but only managed 2 pressures between them on those 53 pass rush attempts. And while we're looking at that, shout out to Dwayne Smoot. He managed 3 pressures, more than Rousseau and Epinesa combined, and he only had 14 pass rush attempts. So looking for big things from Smoot next year. That's at the end of the day, you passed 3 out of the 5 grades, but that's not enough to get the W, unfortunately. So those were the keys. Now we have to deal with looking at our predictions. Jamie G was coming in hot with his predictions, and we do our predictions like you do Buffalo Wings at various levels of heat. So we had a mild prediction, a medium prediction, and a hot one. Let's see how we did on those. Our mild prediction was a little bit of a play on Billy Ocean here. We said when the going gets tough, the tough get going. The Bills will rush for 150 plus yards as a team. Unfortunately, this is the lightest of fails. Well, maybe not quite the absolute lightest. That would have been 149 yards. Instead, the Bills rushed for 147 yards as a team, 4.6 yards per carry, scored 2 rushing touchdowns. So I don't think the running game was a disappointment by any means, but there has to be a line somewhere. And if we're going to be technical, it was 150 plus rushing yards. 147 is not 150. So unfortunately, that one is a fail. Key number 2, we were doing the Shakira thing. We said Khalil Shakir will keep it going, building off success against the Ravens with at least 5 receptions and 70 plus receiving yards. Again, pretty close. He got there with the receptions. He had 6 receptions, but unfortunately only had 46 receiving yards. He had the big reception for 24 yards. The problem was the other 5 only got him 22 yards. So one more long one. He breaks one more there. We were not far off, but unfortunately, 5 receptions and 70 plus yards is not 6 receptions and 46 yards. So this is also a fail. And we had a hot one here. We said, go ahead, hit play on the Semisonic CD because the Bills were going to take care of business in closing time. We said the Bills will outscore the Chiefs by 10 plus points in the second half. Obviously, this is a fail. The Bills actually did outscore the Chiefs in the second half, 13-11. But once again, math brain supreme here. 2 is not 10. I will say if things had played out a little bit differently in the fourth quarter, they might have had a real chance to have this happen. But unfortunately, we do not possess the DeLorean with the flux capacitor. So what happened, happened. And finally, we said, what the hell? This is a big game. We threw some suicide wings into the mix. The suicide prediction was the Bills will not be called for a roughing the passer or unnecessary roughness penalty. And somewhat surprisingly, we almost hit this one. Again, the lightest of fails. Jordan Phillips was flagged for unnecessary roughness on the first Mahomes rushing touchdown, but it was on the actual touchdown. So they called the penalty to be enforced on the kick, and the Chiefs just kicked the extra point anyway. So, yes, we did have one called, but it actually did not wind up making any impact on the game. You could argue that maybe if they would have gone for 2 because they were on the 1 yard line now with the half the distance to the goal, it might have made more of an impact. But since they just kicked the extra point, I think it's a meaningless roughing the passer, but hey, it happened. So again, technicality rules, and we didn't get there, so that's a fail. So failed on all 4 of the predictions. Kind of close, but not really a surprise considering the outcome of the game. We also called out our Mafia monster, the player other than Josh Allen. We were looking to have a huge game. We went with Dalton Kincaid, and unfortunately, that did not happen. Once again, if he comes down with that final reception, he probably gets there regardless of the outcome, but he didn't come down with it, so that's where we are. Yeah, it's tough to find stuff that you really want to talk about in a positive manner from this game, but we are going to do our best to try, starting with the Mafia moment, favorite moment from the AFC Championship game. Jamie G gave us picks here, and he said it has to be James Cook's touchdown on fourth down. I completely agree with him there. Again, I was very feeling it in the moment there. Really thought things were going in the direction we wanted. He had a great game, and that was a great moment. Then we have our Mafia MVP, and we might not be able to give it to a singular person here. Again, this is a little bit of a weird one, you would say. If you're going to take a Bills player to be the MVP, really feels like that needs to be James Cook. Really came through when we needed him, had a great game. The only complaint was you wished he was on the field a little bit more. As far as you want to give it out to the real MVP, that's you, Bills fans, Bills Mafia, everybody watching at home, everybody who came out to the stadium in Kansas City, everybody who watches every game, who lives, breathes, and dies Buffalo Bills football. Y'all are the real MVPs. And let's be honest, if you want to pick the actual MVP, the most valuable persons in the game, that would be the referees. It's very difficult to beat the Zebras and the Chiefs at the same time, especially with one hand tied behind your back, more or less. Let's review the results from our Bills bets. It's fun to watch the Bills game, but it's even more fun to make a couple bucks when you are doing so. Jamie G hit his. He showed faith in James Cook. He took James Cook to have 60 plus rushing yards. That was even Steven plus 100. So 100 Bills bucks brought him back 200 with the win. I went all in on Dalton Kincaid. I said Dalton Kincaid is going to score a touchdown. Dalton Kincaid, anytime TD score, that was plus 390, 100 Bills bucks to bring back 490, but unfortunately, he did not find the end zone. Then we had a tripod, a 3-leg single game parlay available on DraftKings. Our 3 legs were Von Miller to have 1+ sack, James Cook 60+ rush yards, and Khalil Shakir to have 5 or more receptions. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. We got there with the Cook and Shakir legs, but we did not get there with the Von Miller leg. Unfortunately, you got to hit all 3 to bring home the bucks, and that would have been a big one. That was plus 1,100, so 100 Bills bucks would have brought back 1,200. That's no fun, but that's the breaks. On the season, Jamie G wound up being the only one in the green. He finished up about 269 Bills bucks. We finished up down 175 Bills bucks on our tripods, and I finished down about 397 Bills bucks. Couldn't get it done in the playoffs there. Just taking a little bit too big of a leap of faith there. But that's what you got to do, right? You got to dust yourself off. You got to get back up again. Unfortunately, the Bills fans are very familiar with this. Not the first rodeo for having to do it, but that doesn't mean that we're not going to do it again, that we're not going to be back next year. We're not going to start getting excited about next season. The world isn't over. You're not Dallas Mavericks fans. You got Josh Allen. There's a lot of good pieces here. The salary cap situation looks a lot better. You're opening up a new stadium a year from now. A lot of good stuff going on, Bills Mafia. The world is not ending. Hopefully, the best times are yet to come. Thanks again for checking out the Mafia Minute. We will be back to review various parts of the season and then start looking forward at free agency, at the draft, all that good stuff that's going to get us excited all over again about the Buffalo Bills. The Mafia Minute is presented by CSCAP Fantasy Football. Find our content wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube. Find us on social media at CSCAPFF and on the web at MafiaMinute.com. Nice and easy to remember, just like the flaps, FLAPS. Very important to our success. Follow, like, and please subscribe. If you had fun, please make sure that you hit the thumb. Thanks again for riding with us all season, Bills Mafia. We will be back, just like the Buffalo Bills. We ain't going nowhere. Good luck to y'all, but have fun doing something other than watching the Super Bowl. If you like to root for the Birds, we'll take you on the bandwagon, but otherwise, I think we're just all hoping the Chiefs lose. Thanks again, Bills Mafia. Y'all the real winners.
And try again. You can dust it off and try again, try again. 'Cause if at first you don't succeed, you can dust it off and try again.